Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Today's story is titled Asterisk Asterisk. Her tearful cry made the millionaire freeze. He realized she was innocent. Asterisk Asterisk. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit asterisk, asterisk subscribe, asterisk asterisk, and turn on the asterisk asterisk notification bell, asterisk asterisk, so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive right into the story. Imagine this. A young woman in distress, her tearful cry stopping a millionaire in his tracks. What happens next will change everything for both of them. Stay tuned as we uncover the truth behind the tears and how it leads to a revelation neither of them expected. Let's go back to our main character, Emma. She had always been a quiet soul, with a passion for art but little time to pursue her dreams. A waitress at a small, unassuming diner, she found herself caught in a never-ending cycle of bills and responsibilities. She didn't mind, though. Life had taught her to keep moving, keep working, and never complain. Yet tonight, something felt different. She had agreed to this blind date because her best friend, Jenny, insisted. "You need to get out there, Emma. You deserve a little fun," Jenny had said. But Emma wasn't so sure. She wasn't used to the glitz and glamour of the world Jenny thrived in. The upscale restaurant, the finely dressed guests, it was a world far removed from her own. Still, she had promised Jenny she would go. And so here she was, standing outside the door of an elegant restaurant in downtown New York City. Her eyes glanced at her reflection in the window. She adjusted the hem of her second-hand dress, feeling the familiar discomfort of not quite fitting in. Her shoes were scuffed, and her hair was messier than she would have liked. She was nervous, but she couldn't turn back now. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. Inside, the air was thick with the sounds of polite conversation and the clink of fine china. The lighting was warm, almost too warm, making the space feel like an intimate setting despite its grand size. She scanned the room, her heart racing. She had no idea what she was looking for, no idea who she was supposed to meet. "Table 7, she murmured to herself, looking over the various groups gathered in the space. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her purse as she moved deeper into the restaurant, her mind a flurry of nervous thoughts. That was when she saw him. A man, sitting alone at a table near the back, his attention focused on his phone. His sharp suit and well-groomed appearance stood out against the dimly lit room. He looked to be in his early 30s. With dark, neatly styled hair and a gaze that seemed distant, lost in his thoughts. He didn't seem to notice her approach, so Emma took a deep breath and walked toward him. "Hi, you must be Kevin?" she said, forcing a bright smile despite the fluttering in her stomach. The man looked up, startled, his expression a mixture of surprise and confusion. He blinked at her for a moment, clearly not expecting someone to sit down at his table. Hi Emma," he finally said, his voice a little awkward, though not unkind. Emma, too nervous to notice his confusion, slid into the chair across from him. "I know this is awkward," she said, trying to break the ice. "Blind dates are weird, right?" She let out a nervous laugh, trying to fill the silence. "Jenny told me you might be a little shy, but don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man opened his mouth as if to correct her, but hesitated. Something about Emma's earnest smile made him pause. She seemed so different. Not like the polished socialites or the slick businessmen he was used to. He finally gave in, offering a small smile. "Right, blind dates are something else." The conversation began to flow surprisingly easily after that. Emma talked about her life, her job, and her dreams of one day opening her own art studio. She shared her struggles, how she barely made enough money to cover rent, and how she longed for something more, something different. The man, who introduced himself as Liam, listened intently. He found her candidness refreshing. There was no pretension, no hidden agendas, just a woman trying her best to navigate a difficult world. "So, what do you do?" she asked, taking a sip of her water, still trying to hide her nerves. Liam hesitated, then answered, "I work in tech." Emma smiled. "Tech? That's cool. Coding and apps and stuff, right?" "I'm terrible with computers," she said, laughing lightly. Liam nodded, a faint smile on his lips as he leaned back in his chair. For a few moments, the two of them sat there, exchanging stories and laughs. Emma couldn't help but feel at ease in his company, despite the setting. She had expected this night to be a disaster, but Liam's quiet charm and genuine interest made it bearable. It was only when her phone buzzed that the world around her shifted. "Hey Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7 looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Emma's stomach dropped. She looked at Liam, her face going pale as the realization hit her. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Liam's smile faltered, and he seemed to hesitate for a moment before responding. "No, I'm not." The embarrassment flooded her entire body. She stood up abruptly, her face burning with shame. "I'm so sorry," she mumbled, grabbing her coat and rushing toward the door. She could hear Liam's voice calling after her, but she couldn't bring herself to turn around. She was mortified, and all she wanted to do was disappear. As she exited the restaurant, the cold air hit her like a slap in the face. She couldn't believe what had just happened. How could she have made such a mistake? She had been so sure, so confident, but now all she wanted was to crawl into a hole and hide. Emma rushed out of the restaurant, her face burning with humiliation. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Her heart pounded as she stepped out into the cold New York night, her breath visible in the chilly air. She pulled her coat tighter around her, her hands shaking slightly as she fumbled with her purse. She had made such a fool of herself. She had sat down at the wrong table, talked to a stranger, and now she was running away in shame. It was exactly what she feared would happen, and yet it still stung. She couldn't stop replaying the moment in her head, his confused look, the awkward silence, and then the rush of embarrassment that followed. "Why did I have to make that mistake?" she whispered to herself, walking quickly down the street. She wished she could just disappear into the night. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, but she didn't want to look at it. Not now. She already felt like enough of a disaster. Her mind wandered back to the restaurant. Liam. That was his name, the man she had mistaken for Kevin. She hadn't expected him to be, well, so kind, so genuine, even when she had made such a fool of herself. He hadn't seemed annoyed or angry, just confused, maybe even a little amused. But that didn't change the fact that she had embarrassed herself in front of someone who probably had everything together. And here she was, walking the streets of New York like she always did, just trying to make ends meet. She thought about the kind of life Liam probably lived. He was probably a tech millionaire or something like that. She could imagine him in a penthouse, surrounded by luxury. And here she was, a waitress in a second-hand dress, barely able to pay her rent. The thought made her chest tighten. She hated feeling like this, like she didn't belong. The world she saw at the restaurant was so far removed from her own. But then, there was that moment, that small connection they had shared over their awkward conversation. He had listened to her, like she mattered. She hadn't expected him to. People like him didn't usually listen to people like her. As she walked, she tried to shake off the feelings of embarrassment, but they clung to her like a second skin. She had a few blocks left to walk before she would reach her tiny apartment. It was cold, and the streets were starting to empty out, with most of the late-night crowd already heading home. She didn't mind the quiet. In fact, she preferred it. When she finally made it back to her apartment building, she was exhausted both physically and emotionally. She let herself in, greeted by the familiar hum of the old elevator. Her mind was still spinning, but she couldn't shake the image of Liam's face. He wasn't what she expected. She'd probably never see him again, and that thought made her a little sadder than she was willing to admit. As she entered her small apartment, the warmth of the space hit her immediately, though it did little to calm her nerves. She dropped her purse on the kitchen counter and kicked off her shoes, heading straight for the couch. Just as she sat down, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it hesitantly, thinking it might be Jenny asking how the date went. Instead, it was a message from an unknown number. "Hi Emma, it's Liam. I know this might be awkward, but I wanted to apologize for not correcting you sooner. I hope you're not too upset with me. I didn't mean to make things uncomfortable." Emma blinked, rereading the message twice before she could process it. He had texted her? Why? She hadn't expected that. Was he just being polite, or was there more to it? She typed a quick response, unsure of what to say. "Hi Liam, no need to apologize. It was my mistake. I should have double-checked before sitting down." Her fingers hovered over the screen for a moment, then she hit send. She didn't expect him to respond, but he did. "You were very kind. I appreciate that. Listen, I know this sounds strange, but if you'd like, I'd love to make it up to you. Maybe we could have coffee sometime?" No pressure, of course. Her heart skipped a beat. Coffee? She stared at the message for a moment, unsure of what to make of it. Could he really be interested in seeing her again? even after the embarrassing mix-up? Or was this just a polite offer to smooth things over? She sat back on the couch, looking around her tiny apartment, suddenly feeling like it was too small, too cramped, too far from the life she'd imagined for herself. But then, she thought about Liam's offer. Maybe it was a chance, a small opportunity to get to know him, to see if there was more to him than just the man she had mistaken for Kevin. Her phone buzzed again, and this time it was a different message. "I meant what I said. If you're interested, we could meet up tomorrow. My treat." Emma's heart raced as she read the message. She wasn't sure what to do, but part of her felt the pull to take a chance. She'd already made a fool of herself once. Why not take a chance on something else? She smiled softly and began typing her response. Emma sat there for a few moments, staring at her phone, her heart racing. Could this really be happening? Was Liam actually offering to meet her again after everything that had just occurred? She hesitated for a second before typing back. "Sure, I'd like that. Coffee sounds nice." She hit send before she could overthink it. Her fingers trembled slightly as she placed the phone down on the coffee table and leaned back into the couch. She hadn't expected this, not in a million years. The entire day had felt like a whirlwind, from the awkward mix-up at the restaurant to the sudden, unexpected message from Liam. The next day came quickly, and as Emma prepared for the coffee meetup, she couldn't help but feel nervous. She changed outfits 3 times, staring at herself in the mirror, wondering if she looked presentable enough. Her clothes were simple, but she tried her best to make them look as good as they could. It wasn't like she had a lot of options. Her reflection reminded her of what she was, a struggling waitress, a dreamer, someone who had no business being around a man like Liam. But something inside her told her to push past her doubts. She walked into the small cafe where they agreed to meet. It was a cozy little place with exposed brick walls and soft lighting, a perfect spot for quiet conversations. She scanned the room, feeling a little out of place. She wasn't used to places like this. But then she saw Liam, sitting at a table in the corner, his back straight, looking just as out of place as she felt. He looked up as she approached, and his expression softened when he saw her. "Hey, Emma," he said with a smile, standing up to greet her. "I'm glad you came." Emma smiled back, trying to ignore the flutter in her chest. "Thanks for inviting me." She sat down across from him, a little too aware of how awkward the situation felt. The last time they'd met, she'd embarrassed herself terribly. Now, here they were, trying to start over. They both sat in silence for a moment, and Emma couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. What was this? A date? A friendly coffee? She wasn't sure, but the tension between them was palpable. Finally, Liam spoke again. "So tell me more about yourself, Emma. What do you really want to do with your life?" It was a simple question, but it felt like a challenge. Emma hadn't really thought about what she wanted to do, not seriously. She was a waitress because it paid the bills, but art had always been her true passion. She had dreams of opening her own studio someday, but she never really believed it was possible. She had always told herself that dreams were for people who had the luxury of time and money. But Liam was looking at her with such genuine curiosity, like he really wanted to know. She swallowed her self-doubt and decided to be honest. "I've always wanted to open an art studio," she said quietly. "But it feels so far out of reach. I don't have the money or the connections. I just draw when I can, and try to save enough to get by." Liam nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "I think it's important to chase what makes you happy, Emma. I know it's not always easy, but it's worth it. You never know what could happen if you just take that first step." Emma blinked, surprised by his words. He seemed so confident, so sure of himself. And yet, here he was, talking to her like she mattered, like her dreams weren't just some far-fetched fantasy. "I don't know," she replied, shaking her head slightly. "It feels too big, too impossible. I don't think I have what it takes." Liam smiled softly, his eyes sincere. "I think you're wrong. Sometimes the hardest part is just believing in yourself. The rest will follow." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She wanted to believe him, she really did. But she wasn't sure how. The conversation shifted to lighter topics after that, but Emma couldn't help but reflect on what Liam had said. He made it sound so simple, like taking the first step was the key to unlocking everything she had ever dreamed of. She wasn't sure if she was ready to believe that, but a small part of her wanted to try. As the coffee date came to a close, Liam stood up to leave. "I'm really glad we did this, Emma. I think you've got something special, and I'd love to see you succeed." Emma looked up at him, a smile tugging at her lips. "Thank you, Liam. That means more to me than you know." Liam smiled back, his expression warm. Let's not make it a one-time thing, okay? I'd like to keep in touch." With that, they parted ways, and Emma stepped out into the brisk afternoon air, feeling a little lighter than before. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe, just maybe, things could change. She had a long road ahead of her, but she wasn't as scared of it anymore. She had a spark of hope now, a spark that Liam's kind words had ignited inside her, and she was determined to see where it would take her. Emma woke up the next morning feeling a little different, as if the conversation with Liam had awakened something inside her that she hadn't realized was there. She had never been one to believe in second chances or miracles, but the way he had spoken to her, the way he had made her feel like maybe, just maybe, her dreams weren't as far out of reach as she thought they stayed with her. She thought about the words he said, how he believed in her when she could barely believe in herself. It was enough to push her to try, to do something different, to see if she could make her dreams a reality. The day went on like any other. Emma worked her usual shift at the diner, moving between tables with a forced smile, keeping her mind focused on the tasks at hand rather than the distractions in her heart. She kept thinking about Liam, wondering if he truly meant what he said. He had given her hope, but she couldn't help but feel like it was all too good to be true. Was he really interested in her, or was he just being polite? She didn't want to let herself get carried away by false hope. Later that afternoon, as Emma was cleaning up after her shift, she noticed a small envelope on the counter. It was addressed to her, with no return address. And when she opened it, her breath caught in her throat. Inside was a check for a large sum of money, enough to cover several months of rent and more. She stared at it, her hands trembling. There was a note that read, "I know this isn't much, but I hope it helps. Keep believing in yourself, Emma. I look forward to seeing you succeed." The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Liam's. Emma couldn't believe what she was seeing. She held the check in her hands, almost afraid to believe it was real. How could he have done this? Why would he give her so much money, especially after just one meeting? She knew this wasn't just about money. It was about something deeper. Liam had seen something in her that she hadn't seen in herself, and now he was giving her a chance, a real opportunity to change her life. She sat down on the edge of a booth, her mind racing. What was she supposed to do with this gift? Was it a gesture of kindness, or was there something more to it? She felt overwhelmed by the gesture, but she knew deep down that it was a sign, a push to take that first step towards her dream. The next few days were a blur. Emma debated what to do with the money. Part of her wanted to hold on to it, unsure of whether or not she deserved it. But another part of her knew she couldn't waste this chance. This could be the turning point she had been waiting for. She could use this money to take a class, to get the materials she needed to start her art studio. She could finally take the leap and do what she had always dreamed of doing. Finally, after days of uncertainty, Emma made a decision. She walked to the local art supply store and bought sketchbooks, paints, and brushes, all the things she had always wanted but never could afford. She felt the excitement build inside her as she walked home, her hands full of supplies that signified more than just art tools. They were the tools of her future, the key to unlocking her dreams. A week later, Emma found herself in a small rented studio space, sitting on the floor with her sketchbook open, her pencils and brushes scattered around her. She was terrified, but she was also filled with a sense of purpose she hadn't known before. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't thinking about what she didn't have. Instead, she was focused on what she could create. She worked through the night, her hands covered in paint, her heart beating faster with every stroke she made. And then, just as she was finishing a piece she had been working on for hours, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Liam. "How's everything going, Emma? I've been thinking about you and what you said about your art. I know it's not easy, but I believe in you. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask." Emma stared at the message, her heart swelling. She hadn't expected to hear from him again, but here he was, still encouraging her, still believing in her. She typed a quick response. "Thank you, Liam. Your words mean so much to me. I'm taking the leap, and I'm not going to look back." As she put her phone down, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. For the first time in her life, she knew she was on the right path. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't know exactly how things would turn out, but she knew one thing for sure: she was no longer afraid to dream. With the support of someone like Liam, she felt like anything was possible, and no matter how hard it got, she was going to give it her all, because for the first time, she believed in herself. She wasn't alone anymore. It had been a few weeks since Emma started working in the small studio space, and things were beginning to fall into place in a way she never expected. Her days were filled with painting, sketching, and creating something she had dreamed of for years but had never truly believed she could achieve. The studio was small, but it was hers. The paintings she had created in just a short amount of time filled the walls, a visual representation of her progress, her hard work, and the dreams that were slowly starting to come true. Still, there were moments when doubt crept in. Some days, she questioned if she was doing the right thing. Was this all worth it? Could she really make a living as an artist? What if she failed? But then, she would think back to the conversation she had with Liam, and his words would echo in her mind. "I think you've got something special. Keep believing in yourself." Those words became her anchor, a reminder that she was capable of more than she thought. One afternoon, as she was adding the final touches to a painting she had been working on for days, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "Hey Emma, I hope everything's going well. I wanted to check in and see how you're doing with your art. Let me know if you need anything." Emma smiled as she read the message. It had been a while since they last spoke, but his support still meant the world to her. She typed back a quick reply. "Thank you, Liam. Things are going great, actually. I'm working on some pieces, and it's been amazing. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me." Liam's response came almost immediately. "I'm really glad to hear that. You've always had the potential, Emma. Just keep going. And if you ever want to show your work to someone, let me know. I'd love to help however I can." Emma felt a rush of warmth at his words. It had never occurred to her that someone like Liam, someone so successful and established, would be so genuinely invested in her success. She had started this journey alone, unsure of where it would lead, but now she felt like she had someone in her corner, someone who truly believed in her. A few days later, Emma received another surprise. She was sitting at her small desk in the studio, sketching out ideas for a new series, when a delivery driver knocked on her door. He handed her a large, carefully wrapped package. Curious, Emma opened the package to find a beautifully framed print of one of her paintings, the one she had created just a few weeks ago, the one she had almost given up on. There was a note attached. "I've been thinking about your work, and I wanted to show you something. I believe in your talent, Emma. Keep pushing forward, Liam." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she looked at the framed painting. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything to her. Liam didn't just see her as an artist. He saw her as someone who had something valuable to offer. And now, more than ever, she was determined to prove him right. The next few weeks passed quickly. Emma continued to paint, pouring her heart into every piece, and the studio slowly started to feel more like home. Her work began to gain attention. She sold her first painting to a couple who had come across it at a local gallery showing. It was a small victory, but it felt like a giant leap forward. Then, one afternoon, Liam called her. "Emma, I've been thinking," he said, his voice warm and familiar. "I have an idea. I'd like to help you take your art to the next level. I know some people in the art world, and I'd love to connect you with them. You've got so much potential, and I think you deserve to be seen." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Are you serious? I can't even imagine." "I am serious," Liam interrupted gently. "You've worked hard to get here, Emma. I just want to help you get the recognition you deserve." She didn't know what to say. She had come so far, and now she had the chance to go even further. Liam was offering her an opportunity she could never have dreamed of, and she realized that this was what she had been waiting for all along, the chance to turn her passion into something more, to make her dreams a reality. "Thank you, Liam," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "This means more to me than you know." As the days went by, Liam made good on his promise. He introduced Emma to art curators, gallery owners, and other artists who could help guide her on her journey. Slowly but surely, she began to build her presence in the art community. It wasn't easy, but with Liam's support, she felt like anything was possible. Emma continued to work hard, painting, networking, and learning as much as she could. Her confidence grew with every step, and soon she found herself with her first solo exhibition. The opening night was a blur of excitement, nerves, and a sense of accomplishment she had never felt before. She walked through the gallery, surrounded by her work, knowing that this was only the beginning. As the night came to a close, Liam found her in the crowd, smiling proudly at her. "You did it, Emma," he said, his voice full of admiration. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied, her eyes shining with gratitude. Liam smiled, his eyes meeting hers. "You did the hard part. You believed in yourself. I just helped open a door." Emma smiled back, knowing that, for the first time in her life, she had finally stepped into a world where her dreams were no longer just dreams. They were her reality. Months passed, and Emma's art career continued to blossom. With each passing day, she found herself more and more immersed in the world she had once dreamed about from the outside looking in. The gallery exhibitions, the art collectors, the media coverage, everything was happening so quickly, but it still felt surreal to her. She was living a life she had once thought was reserved for other people, people who were born into privilege, who had connections, or who just had the luck to make it big. Yet here she was, an artist with her own studio, her own name in the art world, all because she had taken that first step, thanks to Liam's support. She spent her mornings in the studio, working tirelessly on new pieces, and her afternoons meeting with curators, gallery owners, and fellow artists. Each conversation, each connection, pushed her further along the path she had once thought impossible to walk. But even with all the progress she had made, Emma still felt a sense of gratitude to Liam. He had been the one to believe in her when she didn't believe in herself. His belief in her had sparked something deep inside, and now, every brushstroke she made felt like a small victory, a personal triumph. One afternoon, as Emma was putting the finishing touches on a new painting, she received a call from Liam. She had just come back from a meeting with a potential buyer, and she was feeling particularly good about the direction her art was taking. The sound of Liam's voice on the other end of the line always had a way of grounding her, reminding her that her journey wasn't just about talent, it was about having the courage to take a leap, even when everything felt uncertain. "Hey, Emma," Liam's voice was warm, as always. "I've been meaning to ask you, how are you feeling about everything? You've come so far, but I know how hard it is to keep pushing, especially in the art world. How are you holding up?" Emma smiled at the concern in his voice. "I'm doing great, honestly. It's a lot of work, but it's also incredibly fulfilling. I never imagined I'd be in this position. It still feels a little unreal, to be honest." Liam chuckled softly. "I get that. But it's all you, Emma. You've earned every bit of success. I'm proud of you." Her heart warmed at his words. She hadn't expected him to be so involved in her journey, but it meant the world to her. Over the months, they had become friends, their relationship evolving into something deeper. He had been there for her through the highs and lows, supporting her dreams and even offering advice when she needed it. But today, something in Liam's tone made Emma wonder if there was more to his feelings than just friendship. "I really appreciate everything you've done for me, Liam," Emma said, her voice soft. "I don't know if I would have had the courage to do any of this without you. You've been more than just a mentor. You've been a friend." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and Emma felt a rush of nervous energy. Was she saying too much? Was she reading into things? She didn't want to complicate their relationship, especially not when things were finally going so well. "Emma," Liam's voice broke through her thoughts. "I don't know if I've said this before, but I care about you. I've been thinking about you a lot lately, and I don't want you to think I'm just some distant mentor. I've always been impressed by your drive and passion, but somewhere along the way, I realized I wanted to be more than just someone who helps you with your art. I think I care about you in a way that goes beyond that." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure if she had heard him right. Did he just say what she thought he said? She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Liam," she whispered. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Liam laughed softly, but there was a hint of nervousness in it. "I think I am. I care about you, Emma. I want to be more than just a part of your journey. I want to be there for you in every way possible." For a moment, Emma was silent. She had never expected this. She had always admired Liam, not just for his success, but for the way he had believed in her when no one else had. But now, hearing him admit his feelings, everything felt different. She wasn't sure what to say. Part of her was terrified. She had always been afraid of opening her heart to someone, afraid of the vulnerability that came with it. But another part of her, the part that had taken all those risks to get to where she was now, felt something stir deep inside. Maybe it was time to take another leap. "Liam," she said slowly, her voice a little shaky, "I care about you too. I think I've felt it for a while, but I was scared to admit it. You've been so important to me, and I've never had someone believe in me like you do." There was a pause, and then Liam spoke, his voice full of emotion. "So, does that mean you'd like to see where this goes?" Emma smiled, her heart full. "I'd like that very much." As she hung up the phone, she sat back, a sense of peace settling over her. She wasn't sure where this would lead, but for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. She had taken risks, faced her fears, and now she had the chance to see what could happen when you let someone in. The future was uncertain, but she knew that with Liam by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. The following weeks were filled with a new kind of excitement. Emma and Liam's relationship blossomed, and what had started as a professional connection quickly turned into something deeper, more meaningful. They spent their days supporting each other, Liam helping Emma with her art career, and Emma reminding Liam of the value of genuine connection in a world that often prioritized success over personal happiness. As their bond grew stronger, Emma couldn't help but feel grateful for the way things had turned out. She had never imagined that someone like Liam, with so much success and experience, would be so invested in her. But now, as they spent more time together, she began to realize that their connection went beyond just mutual respect. One evening, as they sat at a small cafe, sipping their coffee, Liam looked at Emma with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he began, "I've been thinking a lot lately about how far you've come. Your growth as an artist has been incredible, and I think it's time you took another step." Emma raised an eyebrow, curious. "What do you mean?" Liam leaned in, his voice soft but full of purpose. "I think it's time you put your work out there on a bigger stage. You've been making a name for yourself in the local art scene, but I believe you're ready for more. It's time for your first big solo exhibition, Emma. The kind of exhibition that could get you the recognition you truly deserve." Emma's heart raced. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, but the thought of showcasing her work on such a grand scale terrified her. She had worked so hard to get to where she was, but was she really ready to take that next step? The idea of being on display in front of a larger audience, of opening herself up to potential criticism, felt overwhelming. "I don't know, Liam," Emma said, her voice tinged with doubt. "What if I fail? What if people don't like my work? What if I'm not good enough?" Liam reached across the table and gently took her hand. "Emma, you've already proven that you're more than good enough. You've poured your heart into every piece, and it shows. I've seen it firsthand. But the world doesn't get to see your full potential unless you show them. You have to take the risk, because that's where the magic happens. I believe in you. I know you can do this." Emma looked into Liam's eyes, seeing the sincerity there. She could feel the warmth of his belief in her, and for the first time in a long time, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she could believe in herself too. She had come so far, and it had all started with the first step. Now, the next step was to trust herself enough to take the leap into something bigger, something that scared her but also excited her. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady despite the nerves swirling inside her. "I'm ready. Let's make this happen." Liam smiled, his eyes full of pride. "I knew you would." Over the next few weeks, Liam helped Emma prepare for the exhibition. He introduced her to the right people in the art world, guided her in choosing which pieces to display, and even offered to fund the event, ensuring that everything would be perfect. Emma threw herself into the preparation, working late into the night, carefully selecting her best works and ensuring each piece was framed just right. Every time she felt the doubt creeping in, she would think back to Liam's words, "I believe in you," and that belief gave her the strength to keep going. Finally, the night of the exhibition arrived. Emma stood in front of the gallery, dressed in her best outfit, her heart pounding in her chest. The gallery was buzzing with energy, filled with art lovers, critics, and collectors. As people walked through the space, admiring her work, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. She had done it. She had taken that leap, and now her art was being seen by a wider audience. Liam appeared at her side, offering a reassuring smile. "How does it feel?" he asked, his voice full of warmth. "It feels incredible," Emma said, her eyes wide with awe. "I can't believe I'm here, surrounded by people who appreciate my work. I never thought I'd get this far." Liam chuckled. "I always knew you would. You just needed to see it for yourself." As the night went on, Emma's confidence grew with every compliment and every person who stopped to admire her pieces. She had made it, and she knew that this was just the beginning. Her journey wasn't over, it was only starting. By the end of the night, Emma had sold several pieces, and a major art dealer had expressed interest in representing her. As she and Liam stood together watching the crowd, Emma felt a rush of gratitude. She had taken the leap, faced her fears, and come out on top. She knew that no matter what came next, she had the strength to handle it. And most importantly, she had someone by her side who believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. "Thank you, Liam," Emma said softly, looking at him, "for everything. you've changed my life." Liam smiled, his eyes full of affection. "No, Emma, you changed your life. I was just lucky enough to be part of the journey." And in that moment, Emma realized just how far she had come, how much she had grown. Not just as an artist, but as a person. She had stepped into a world she had once thought was out of her reach. And now, with Liam by her side, she was ready to conquer anything that came her way. As the months passed, Emma's career continued to soar, each new opportunity opening doors she never thought possible. The exhibition was only the beginning, and with every new connection she made, her reputation as an artist grew. Her art was now being featured in galleries across the city, and she was even approached by a major art magazine for an exclusive interview. It felt surreal to her. The life she had once dreamed of was now her reality, and she couldn't have been more grateful. But amidst the success and excitement, there was one thing that stood out more than anything else: Liam. From the moment he had entered her life, he had been her rock. He believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. He had guided her, encouraged her, and even helped her navigate the difficult world of art galleries and buyers. And now, as her career was taking off, she realized just how much he had come to mean to her. It wasn't just about the art anymore. It was about the bond they had built together. One evening, after a particularly successful opening, Liam invited Emma out for dinner. They went to a quiet, intimate restaurant, a place they both loved. The night was calm, and the ambiance of the restaurant felt like the perfect setting to reflect on everything that had happened. As they sat down to eat, Emma couldn't help but smile. "I still can't believe everything that's happened. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and it'll all be a dream." Liam chuckled, his eyes soft as he looked at her. "It's not a dream, Emma. You've earned every bit of this success. You've worked harder than anyone I know, and you deserve every bit of it." "I know, but sometimes it still feels so surreal," Emma said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "I never thought I'd be in this position. Never thought I'd have my own studio, or that people would be talking about my work." "You've always had the talent, Emma. You just needed the right chance to show the world." "I'm proud of you," Liam said, his voice filled with sincerity. Emma smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She had come so far, and much of it was because of Liam. He had been her mentor, her friend, and now, looking at him, she realized he had become something even more. There was a connection between them, one that went beyond just professional admiration. She had felt it for some time now, and as she looked at him, she knew it was time to confront her feelings. "Liam," she began, her voice quieter now, "there's something I've been meaning to say. I don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the way, I started to feel something for you. It's not just about the help you've given me, or how you've guided me. It's about you. I care about you, more than I ever thought I could." Liam looked at her, his expression softening, and for a moment, Emma feared she had said too much. But then, Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "Emma," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion, "I feel the same way. I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you, but I think you already know. I've cared about you from the moment we met. Not just because of your talent, but because of who you are. You've become so important to me." Emma's heart skipped a beat, a mixture of relief and joy washing over her. For so long, she had kept her feelings to herself, afraid of ruining what they had. But now, hearing him say the same thing she had been feeling, it was like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "You mean everything to me, Liam," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "You've been my biggest supporter, my inspiration, and now, I can't imagine my life without you in it." Liam's smile was gentle, his thumb lightly brushing over the back of her hand. "You don't have to imagine, Emma. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." The world outside seemed to fade away as they sat there together, their hands intertwined. It wasn't just the success of Emma's art career that made this moment so special. It was the realization that they had both found something deeper than what either had anticipated. They had built something real, something meaningful, and it was more than Emma had ever hoped for. As the evening went on, they talked about everything: their dreams, their fears, and the future they both hoped to build together. Emma knew that she had a long road ahead of her, but now, with Liam by her side, she felt ready for whatever came next. She had already come so far, and with him, she knew they could achieve anything. "I'm ready for the future, Liam," Emma said, her voice steady with newfound confidence. "And I want to share it with you." Liam squeezed her hand gently. "Me too, Emma. Me too." As they left the restaurant, hand in hand, Emma felt a sense of peace settle in her heart. She had taken a leap of faith, followed her dreams, and found not only success, but love along the way. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: she wasn't walking it alone. As time passed, Emma's life continued to unfold in ways she had once only dreamed of. Her art career had taken off, and with Liam by her side, she felt unstoppable. Together, they had built something real, both professionally and personally. Emma had learned not only to believe in her art, but also to trust in the love that had blossomed between them. The studio that once felt like a small, humble space now felt like a place of limitless possibilities. Each new painting she created was an expression of everything she had overcome and the future she was now shaping with Liam. It wasn't just the art world that had become a new adventure for Emma. It was her life. She and Liam spent countless hours together, working on projects, traveling to exhibitions, and enjoying the quiet moments that came with their growing bond. It wasn't always easy. There were still the pressures of the industry, the late nights, and the uncertainties of what the future would hold. But through it all, Emma knew one thing: she wasn't alone, and with Liam's unwavering support, she felt stronger than ever. One summer evening, after a long day at the gallery, Emma and Liam found themselves walking through the park near her studio. The sun was setting, casting a golden light over the paths, and the gentle breeze felt refreshing after the heat of the day. They walked side by side, their hands intertwined, not needing to say much. It was one of those moments where words weren't necessary. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Emma asked, her voice soft but filled with wonder. Liam looked over at her, his expression warm and thoughtful. "All the time. You've come so far, Emma. You've transformed your dreams into reality. I've watched you grow into someone who not only inspires others but also inspires herself." Emma smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Liam. You believed in me from the very beginning, and you've been there every step of the way. You've been my strength when I didn't have any left." Liam squeezed her hand gently. "You always had the strength inside you, Emma. You just needed someone to help you see it. And I'm so proud to be the one who got to stand by your side through it all." They continued walking, enjoying the peacefulness of the evening. It was moments like this, simple, quiet, and full of meaning, that made everything feel worth it. Emma realized that success wasn't just about accolades or recognition. It was about the people you shared your journey with. And she had found someone who was not only her biggest supporter but also her partner in every sense of the word. A few weeks later, Emma's work was featured in a major art publication. The article was a recognition of her journey, from struggling artist to established professional. It highlighted her growth, her passion, and the love that had fueled her success. As she read through the article, she felt a sense of pride and fulfillment that was unlike anything she had ever experienced. But even more than the recognition, it was the words Liam had said to her that stuck with her. "You've always had the strength inside you." As her career continued to grow, Emma knew that her journey wasn't just about becoming a successful artist. It was about embracing the love and support that had been given to her and sharing it with others. With Liam by her side, she was ready for whatever came next. They had built something beautiful together, and Emma knew that whatever challenges the future held, they would face them as a team. One evening, as they sat together in her studio, surrounded by her artwork, Liam turned to Emma with a serious look in his eyes. "There's something I've been wanting to ask you," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Emma looked at him, her heart skipping a beat. "What is it?" Liam smiled softly, then took her hand in his. "I've spent so much time thinking about how much you've changed my life, how much we've built together, and I want to keep building it with you. Emma, will you marry me?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment, everything felt still. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she looked at Liam, her heart overwhelmed with emotion. She had never imagined this moment, this proposal would come so soon, but in her heart, she knew it was right. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with happiness. "Yes, I will." And just like that, their journey together took a new turn. Emma had come so far from a struggling artist to someone who had found love, success, and fulfillment in ways she had never imagined. She had taken a leap of faith in herself, and with Liam by her side, she knew that every step forward would be a step they would take together. The future was wide open, full of endless possibilities, and with the love they had built, Emma knew that anything was possible. As they embraced, Emma felt the warmth of the life they had created, a life full of love, art, and the belief that dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed, could come true. And as they looked toward their future, Emma realized that this was only the beginning of the story they would write together.